Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. Our calling number is 646-200-4169. Press 1, and that puts you in through to Dr. Michael. And we're getting an echo back here. And our Memorial Day celebration, today is day number 313. And this is Good Friday, and we were just talking about how awesome it was. We're getting ready to start our intensive tonight, and it's full moon, and I'm not sure what all else is going on, but it's like everything's in alignment, and it's perfect, and it's beautiful. We've just picked some fresh grapefruit off a tree that's right here in the yard where we're going to have the intensive. It's just, we're waiting on everybody to show up, so we're going to have a good time. Again, 646-200-4169, press 1. Hello, Michael.
Hey, sweetie. Thank you for that introduction, and it will be a good time, although there'll be moments where there may be some thinking that it's not a good time when that stuff starts to come up and starts to move. But that's our purpose in doing an intensive, is to stir everything. You know, for those who've never done an intensive, one of the first things I'll announce on opening night, and if there's anyone that's coming to the show, you'll hear me say this tonight, is that everybody that you've never dealt with in your life, we've communicated with and asked if they would come and be here, and they all agreed to show up. That's the beauty of life, is people show up to show you everything, and an intensive, it is, of course, intensified. It goes to another level, and that's our goal. And when we do an intensive, our invitation is for each person to have the willingness to let everything that is unlike love in them come to the surface and learn to do it differently. Learn to step out of the state of hostility and fear. And Key mentioned the Memorial Day celebration. Our invitation for you and for everyone that is listening to the show each day that we do another show is the invitation to get on the team that's changing the world. How is that change happening? What's going to occur for that to happen? Well, here's the plan. If you have any form of hostility or fear in you that you think you're not responsible for, we're going to invite you to start to move past your mind's lies, the frauds that your mind does to you, and to recognize that, you know, if you've been through it 87 different times with 42 different people, you're the only one that was there every time. It's all about you. What's going on inside of you is all about you. And all that is all about you can be forgiven. That is, can be removed. The removal process is called forgiveness. The removal process has absolutely nothing to do with letting other people off the hook because of what's happening inside of you. The removal process is about going inside yourself and moving out, literally, the physiological capacity for any form of hostility or fear. That's what we're looking to support you in. And so, if you're willing to be part of the team that changed the world, we're going to invite you to take that level of responsibility that supports you in letting loose of all hostility and fear and living a truly, truly total human life. That is, nothing unlike love exists in your physiology. The only thing that embodies in you and through you is the active presence of love. So that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to support you in. If you can't conceive of how that could possibly be done, then we invite you to go to our website, www.whyagain.com, and the whole story's there. If you look under the section that says Download Worksheets, the first 7 links will give you the whole story of how to remove what never belonged and how to replace it with something new, a human life, the active presence of love. So that's our invitation to you. That's our request of you. Go to the website, download that worksheet. You can download my book free. There are videos, there are audios, there are all kinds of things to support you in learning the process of forgiveness. And as you tap into it, of course, there's a big piece of unlearning to be done. Why unlearning? Because our whole culture has taught us that it's all everybody else's fault, and that's all a total fraud and a total lie. So the work is going to be the removal of the hostility or fear, the very removal of whatever it is that takes you out of the space of love so that you return to your human life, your human space, 24/7, 365. And so that's our invitation. That's our support for you. Jimmy, do we have any callers? Anything happening in the chat room?
Nobody has their hand up, and there's no questions in the chat room. Everybody's just sitting there listening. Perhaps talk a little bit about, today's Good Friday, and we're coming upon the week which represents, everybody celebrates today being Good Friday is actually the celebration of the crucifixion and his death. I don't know why they consider that a celebration, and then Easter is celebrating the resurrection and how we're resurrecting to a new life by ending the hostilities and fears that are within us. And that's a powerful start for this first intensive that we do.
Well, there's a lot of energy moving on the planet right now around this. I know that the non-being mind, the mind that we call non-being, that is the mind made up of hostility or fear, just loves its suffering. Oh, it loves it. It revels in it. It thinks it's so cool. I've actually been to church services where on Good Friday they will take a stuffed figure of a human, and they'll have a cross, and they'll pound nails into the hands and feet, and everybody will sit there in tears, lamenting at how terrible it is that we've done such a thing, and that it's all our fault, which, of course, is the opposite of what Yeshua intended, and that was to inspire us to live a life based in the active presence of love. And so to move into that life based in the active presence of love is to recognize that hostility or fear never belonged in you. The basic message is hostility or fear never belonged in you. And if you have any doubt about that and you want to check out the nature of a human life, hold a newborn child. Holding the newborn will tell you exactly what human life is about. Yeshua did not come, I'd offer, to bring us or to teach us the power of suffering and death. He brought to us the message of, here's how you live a human life, here's the power of a human life. And if you refuse to give up hostility and fear, regardless of what anybody else does, then you're going to step into eternal life, even if they shred your body to pieces. So that's the whole upshot of the Easter celebration. And it is, that part of it is a celebration. The other part is not about celebration. The other part is about recognizing how we give up our human lives. There's an interesting quote in Luke. I think it's Luke 10:12, and there's a man that says, and it kind of relates to the Easter question, it says, how do I inherit eternal life? And what Yeshua says to him is, what is written in the law? He knows the man can quote from his head. He knows the answer. So, well, what's written in the law? How do you read it? And so the man quotes him, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your might, and your neighbor as yourself. And Yeshua says, you spoke the truth, and then he says, do this and you shall live. Now, my offering is, was he saying to this man, sir, you are already dead. You don't have a human life. You have no business asking about eternal life because you're already dead. If love is not active in you when you think of the Creator or neighbor, then you don't have a self. You know, it's interesting, the Greek translation of that one is love God, neighbor, self. But in Aramaic, it is have a condition in the mind called rakma, for the Creator when you think of the Creator, for neighbor when you think of neighbor. And in that language, neighbor means anybody that you think about. And then it says, so as to maintain self. So this is how you maintain the direct experience of a human life. The man who's asking him the question already lives in such hostility or fear that he gave his human life up long ago. He has no idea what a human life is, but he comes from a religious tradition that prattles on about eternal life. And so he's asking this question about eternal life. And Yeshua, in essence, says, sir, no business asking about eternal life. Get a life first. Here's how you get one. Is there a circumstance in your world where you remove yourself from the presence of active love? If so, then in that circumstance, you're already dead. How do you reclaim a human life? This isn't about eternal life yet. This is just about how to claim a human life. What does he say? Have love. And neighbor, by the way, in that Aramaic passage, that word neighbor means anybody that you think about. So maintain the condition of your humanness. Hold a newborn child to see what that is. Maintain the condition of your humanness when you think of the Creator, when you think of neighbor, and when you think of self. And when you do, then you will have a human life. And with that human life, you will have eternal life. Literally, physically, literally. You know, it's interesting, the hopelessness with which the Greek translations leave people stuck. You know, if you listen to what were said to be the last words from the cross, we're told, and it's interesting because those people who will tell us that it was all Greek, and if Yeshua sat in most churches, he'd say, that's all Greek to me. He'll say, when you live that human life, you have eternal life. And when we're told, he says, Eli, in the Greek translation, they even say they left this one in the original Aramaic, which, of course, obviously intimates that the original was Aramaic, though the Greeks will keep telling us that it was not Aramaic, it was Greek. So Yeshua says, you must maintain this condition of love. And then we're told, he says, in the original Aramaic, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which in the Greeks translated is, you have forsaken me, Father. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Now, interestingly enough, in the Aramaic language, the word set aside for a special purpose is very similar to the word forsaken. So Yeshua was not, and you look at the helplessness and the hopelessness this leaves humans in, because here people proclaim this man to be God, and now he's proclaiming that God has abandoned him. Well, I've seen a lot of people abandon themselves, so I guess that's logical, but how does the Creator, the omnipresent, omniscient Creator, abandon self? Come on, folks, let's wake up here. It's not logical, it's not what it says. In Aramaic, what it says is, and it's a much different greeting than my God, it's an intimate greeting of, oh, Papa, for this you set me aside. That is for a special purpose, to learn and to demonstrate to these non-humans what human life means. And we're here to support you in recovering your human life. And Jeannie, with the intensive starting, I just got a text from Sarah, who's picking up food, asking if I could talk. So can you take the show for a minute or two while I call her? Would you like to call her?
Sure.
You could do that.
That's fine. I actually had something that I wanted to read. Interesting
awesome.
enough.
I'll read to you then.
Okay. Interesting enough, most holidays are set days or whatever, but Easter is set to follow the first full moon, which means that Easter can be any time from sometime in March to sometime in April. And so this is the first full moon of the year, and there's a thing on the I'll put a link to it on our website and in the chat room. But it says, and I don't follow a lot of the astronomical stuff, so some of this may make more sense to some of you than others, but Just some of the points that are in it, I think, are going to be very interesting for us in this intensive, because one of the things we do, like Michael said in the intensive, is to try to stir things and get things going so that we'll look at what's inside and clean it up. But this says, with the Libra full moon falling on the weekend of both Passover and Easter, the spiritual importance of this full moon is emphasized. All full moons highlight relationships, and the Aries Libra full moon is the archetypical relationship full moon, since the two signs energize self, which is Aries, and other, which is Libra. The first full moon of the year shows us the emotional issues that we face as we relate to each other. You know, Michael said that we always invite everybody to bring up stuff for each other in the intensive, so there'll be something there for each one of us. And back to what they were saying. Since it's also a supermoon, which means it's the moon that's closest to the Earth, it will exert a stronger influence on both the ocean's tides and our inner tides. So that should really be interesting. This is the full moon to be conscious of all our relations in our dealings. Michael refers to all our relations in our forgiveness worksheet even, and that is that a lot of the things that we need to deal with are genetic, and we want to heal for ourselves, but for all of our relations. So that was interesting. This says, this is the full moon to be conscious of all our relations in our dealings. And a good place to start is to examine how you act towards others. Uranus in Aries is charging us with the cosmic energy to do our part in creating a better future. Saturn in Libra is pressuring us to stand up for justice for and between all people. We must stretch ourselves and become more than we've been before if we want to make the most of this potent full moon time. What we learn about ourselves now will affect how we handle the rest of this year's powerful energies. Too much self or too much other creates imbalance. Oppositions are not meant to break apart. They are meant to complement each other. Libra's symbol is a scale, which must be filled on both sides to create balance. Each partner must state his or her needs and desires and then be willing to negotiate a middle way that can satisfy both. Each person has an Aries side and a Libran side. The balance makes the difference. And then it goes on, Mars and Mercury going direct, action and communication. The energies of late March and early April have been frustrating, to say the least. So take a deep breath and get ready to move forward again, because Mars will be turning around on Friday the 13th, the week after the Libra full moon. Use the remaining time to retrograde, to question your motives before you act. You can see Mars shining red in the evening sky. It's close to the Earth now that it's retrograde, so take a good look. We all have many different aspects to our personality, and if we're going to function well in the world, we need to integrate these parts so that they can work together towards common life goals. And when we learn to work with the gifts that we have inside ourselves, we'll be better able to work with others. Our ability to work in groups without losing our focus and identity will become even more important in the coming year. There is a lot of tension during this full moon due to a mutual grand cross. The issue is how to use our energy without scattering it or draining it. There are karmic lessons to be learned about our ability to concentrate, to make decisions, to initiate positive changes, and to stand up for ourselves rather than to give in to external pressure, to release old perspectives and old ways, to categorize our experiences. Love is demanding that we begin to see the world from a new perspective. Venus will also go retrograde in mid-May, asking us to reevaluate what is of value to us. The vision, compassion, and healing of their collective longing has to be incorporated into how we go after what we desire from our life. Our personal desires do not have to conflict with their collective caring. I just thought that was really cool that a lot of the terminology is what we've been using, and I really like the part where it says that this is the full moon to be conscious of all our relations and our dealings. And a good place to start is to examine how you act towards others, and that it will be a strong influence on both the ocean's tides and our inner tides. So we just see this as a phenomenal kickoff for our intensive. And I just thought that was interesting and thought I'd share it about the full moon tonight. Michael, are you back with us yet?
Very cool. I am. And, yeah, that's pretty powerful, and it's interesting that, some circles in the world, when you mention the word astrology, all of a sudden it's almost like holding up a cross, like there's something evil there. But they forget the roots and how the ancient prophets used astrology and the signs in the sky as a signal from the Creator. And so there's some pretty powerful signals there, and certainly in this season, opening the space to hold the space for all our relations. That's one of the key steps in the reality management forgiveness process that we teach, is that we're not just doing this for ourselves, but as the Native Americans said, matakuyasin, for all our relations. So that was pretty cool. You'll have to read that tonight, because it's just so cool that this is coming to this great season of awakening, this energy for resurrection, and the energy of the moon being full tonight, which tends to change the water balance within our structures, and the hydration levels changes a lot in the earth and in these earth forms that we have. So that's pretty interesting. And for those who aren't tapped into what we're about doing, right now we're in Palm Coast, Florida, and we're getting ready for another 14. David and Jeannie and I and Shannon are here, and her husband and her son, and we're waiting for 14 people to arrive today to start a 9-day intensive tonight. So it's a very auspicious time to be doing that, and we've got this beautiful place right between the ocean and the intercoastal waterway. A short walk to the ocean. There's this path through this ancient forest with trees as much as 500 years old that goes right to the ocean from this facility, and then we can walk out the door on the dock and just jump right into the intercoastal waterway. So it's a pretty cool space. And we ask everybody that's listening, wherever you are, if you're in the Middle East, if you're in Europe, if you're in Asia, or anywhere in America, we just ask, if you would, that you beam love in our direction, that you hold that, anchor that space of love, and hold the space, because there's going to be lots of energy moving, lots of things flying this week for the people to come, and purposely, that's exactly what we're here for, to stir, to hold a space, and to really empower everybody that's going to be here, to allow any grief, any pain, every hatred, fear, sadness, rage to surface, and to have that energy transmuted. The ancient idea of the money changers in the temple. The money changers, as we spoke about a few weeks ago, were symbolic of these transmuters of energy. A certain person says a certain word, and somebody goes into a fit of rage, and that's because they have this transmuter in them that interprets or transmutes, changes that look, which is maybe totally neutral or totally supportive, into something that to that person feels like attack. And that's a money changer in our own temple. And the enthusiasm, and that's what we're going to be building through this next 9 days, is a space of enthusiasm for moving through those layers and cleaning out the money changers, cleaning out the very capacity for any form of hostility or fear. And so if you're in that process, if you're engaged in that process, if you've begun it, or you're just sitting there thinking, geez, this is certainly a different way of thinking about everything, this guy's crazy, or wow, I'm ready to move, we'd love it if you'd pick up the phone. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Our call-in number, if you have a question for me, and if everything that we've said, if you were sitting across from me one-to-one and we were just having a cup of tea, would you have a question for me? If so, then your question is everybody's question. And so we invite you to pick up the phone and call us at 646-200-4169. Jeannie, any questions? Anything happening in the chat room?
No, nobody has their hand up, and nobody in the chat room has a question. Everybody's just sitting there listening. So
okay.
we would love to hear from you.
So if you're on the phone and you have a question, there you go. Push 1, and that'll put you in queue to have a chat with Jeannie and I. Who have we got?
Area code 810. You're on the air.
Hey, Michael. Hey, Jeannie. It's Adam.
Well, hey there, good sir. How do you be?
Doing well. I'm
good. We heard from your mom the other day. There's some changes happening in your world, and we certainly hold the space.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Pretty intense. So I just got a job delivering the mail, and my romantic partner is leaving me, and I'm still doing 6 worksheets a day. So I have been since December, and it's been awesome.
So how are your worksheets on being abandoned going? How are your worksheets on relationship ending? How are those worksheets going?
Good. I'm tapping into some of the feelings of like helplessness and hopelessness.
Yeah.
And processing through that, and really reinforcing the necessity of trust. So,
has there ever been a major relationship break in the home in which you lived as a child, or in your own life? Are you used to this?
My dad was working a lot, so he wasn't in the home a lot, and him and my mom didn't really have a lot of interaction. So in some ways, it sort of felt like that.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that the reason I asked that question is you use two key words that we use in our Healing Through Relationships workshop, and we put out, that relationship can't die, relationships have to be killed, and the major words that kill relationship are "you made me." And the reason for that is because most people, when they saw one parent or the other in pain or trauma over relationship events, or actually over any event, they, in their innocence, in their naivete, they reached out to try to heal or to change that situation with the parent, and it was impossible to do because, of course, the child at 3, 4, 5, or 10 didn't know all the dynamics that were going on in the adults' lives around them. So the tendency was, when they couldn't change that dynamic in the family system, was to step into and make up a whole file on exactly, we talk about 4 files, but 2 of them that you just mentioned are hopeless and helpless. So the 3-year-old child goes over and tries to comfort mom or dad, and they can't do it. So it's like, it's just hopeless. I can't do anything. And as a result of I can't do anything, it's helpless. And the other 2 things that probably go along and, see if these things are surfacing too are, and it's all my fault and I'm a failure. They're usually the 4 files, so to speak, that somebody makes up when they watch someone in their lives in pain and can't fix it for them. And so those 4 files are files that need to be deleted, and they're files that are for most people, they're first of all so emotionally charged and have so much trauma and pain in them that all that somebody has to do to trigger those files into activity is say the 3 magic words. And these are not the same 3 magic words we were told would get us everything we wanted. But the 3 magic words are, "you made me." And the minute that you communicate to somebody, "you made me," and angry, sad, afraid, whatever it is, in essence what's being communicated is, I have a painful reality in my mind and I expect you to change it. And the child goes back to their memory bank 3 or 4 years of age and goes, I tried to change it for mom, for dad. I couldn't do it. So hopeless, helpless, fault and failure. And so if any of those things are up for you, we certainly support you in replacing those with trust and removing the energetic trauma, the pain of watching that happen and the pain of recreating it in your life. And as you let go of it, stepping into the space of wholeness and sufficiency. That is, that you live your human life as the awesome presence of love, not expecting someone else to fill a hole for you, but rather to be whole and to bring wholeness to relationship. And when you look at this whole season of Easter, what the powerful demonstration of what Yeshua did was, he steps out of the Garden of Gethsemane and he brings wholeness to the high priest servant who's about to have him killed. And when the high priest servant is injured, instead of jumping in on the team that injures him, and as most humans, or non-humans would, but you deserve this, what does Yeshua do? He brings his wholeness. He brings his human life, and he says, high priest servant who's about to have me killed, let me bring you healing. Let me support you. which is, just about unheard of in our human world, our non-human world. But that's the way the true human world works. And so I support you being able to let loose of everything unlike love in you that brings you pain. And for this lady that's in the process of moving apart, that you're able to hold that space and to communicate out of that connected space of love, which will be a revelation for anybody and everybody that watches.
Yeah, thank you. All that stuff is helpful, and it's helpful just knowing this common process was hopeless, helpless, it's all my fault, and I'm a failure stuff, because I definitely been going through that, as well as I'm really grateful to have this work to remember that, so I can connect to the love inside of me rather than thinking that I'm losing it because this person that I had all this possibility and wishes for the future is leaving, and so it's good to remember that I can be whole.
To recognize that your condition, your experience of love does not come from her, and I don't care what your expectations were. She's never loved you, and she's never going to love you, and you've never loved her, and you're never going to love her. You can experience love by experiencing who you are. She can experience love by experiencing who she is. You can't experience love from her, and she can't experience love from you. What our culture's cheap copy of love is approval. Oh, you do everything so nicely, and you look so cool. I love you. Which isn't love at all. It's just approval, and it's easy to tell that it's approval-based, because notice that the minute you stop doing everything that you're supposed to do in order for this person not to have to look at their own pain, grief, loss, sadness, fear, rage, hatred, anger, notice that the minute you stop doing everything you're supposed to do to maintain that approval, a whole bag of garbage gets dumped on you. And that's what most people do. And as we really recognize that we don't love each other and others don't love us, we have the direct experience of love by experiencing who we are. And then when we extend that to another and connect, that makes the playground for real relationship. And it's almost unheard of in our culture, so I appreciate you, Adam, for taking the bull by the horns, and I mean literally the bull, and removing the bull, the stuff that's based in hostility, fear, blame, guilt, rage, and all of that, that you take that and you're removing it. And I acknowledge you for creating a whole system of support around you, that Rex is there supporting you, Mitzi, that your mom is doing her work and supporting you, holding that space, and that your sister's doing the same. It's just awesome that you're creating that whole family of support. And that's the kind of energetic opening. There was actually a priest who was a paleontologist at Teilhard de Chardin, and he talked about a peduncle in the energetic system, that there was an opening for something new to come in, and that we're filling through this opening an energetic layer around the planet. He called it the noosphere. That is the layer of thought around the planet. And, of course, when you look at the fact that 200 million people in the last century have been killed in war, the noosphere has been filled with a lot of thoughts of rage and pain and sadness and grief and hatred and vengeance. And when you, in a situation where everybody would say, well, of course, all that is very justified, go for it, just rage all you like, that you're saying, thanks, I'll pass, you're literally opening that energy window wider and pouring a new frequency, a new energy into that noosphere, that thought layer around the planet. And that's so needed right now. So I acknowledge you and thank you and join you in that process.
And Adam, I would like to add too, when we were talking to your mom the other day on the show, and she said that you and she both, because of doing your own work, were able to handle different situations in such a more positive and loving way than she could imagine that you all would have handled them previously. And so we just want to acknowledge you and your whole family for being able to stay connected as you're working through these issues.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Good breath. That's the kind of breath that heals, that moves the energy.
Yes. Yeah, I feel really blessed to have all this support in my life, and I appreciate you and the work you're doing, and helping me to be able to see all this stuff. And I'm still reading The Commitment every night to my, my ex-fiance, and, just by myself to her, visualizing her in my mind. And I'm really getting more and more so how, when I do something, I first get the original, and I'm seeing that the more that I approach her with that, with love in my heart, the more that's filling my heart up, my life up. So it's really cool.
Exactly. And one of the games of the non-being culture is to X people out of our lives. So we could refer to somebody as an X. That might make a shift too. That the mind energy shift from Xing somebody who's been important in your life, like you could possibly X all of that out of your field, which is impossible. That you might speak in terms of a former, as opposed to Xing, which means crossing out or getting rid of. And that might open another space for some other layers of healing to occur.
Yeah, thank you. I really like that. I'm going to start practicing that.
So is there anything specific that you have in the way of a question or a thought, or that we can support you in? And know that this whole community, we've got right now there's a whole global community of people who are beaming that supportive energy. And, one of the things we know in the world of physics and the energy system, on the level where thought occurs, the only thing that can stop a high energy wave that leaves the mind when we think of thought, leaves the heart when we feel the feeling of love, the presence of our humanness, is another set of brain cells that matches it. And so just know that you're being beamed that support, as is your former, and your mom and your sister.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, my lunch period is almost over, so I just have a couple of minutes, and I plan on calling next week when I have a day off. And but I did want to share a few things, if I may.
Go for it, please do.
One thing is I'm a student right now of Vedic astrology, which is called Jyotish in Sanskrit, and just wanted to. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but it's based on the sidereal.
I am, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have several friends who work with Jyotish.
Cool. Yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there because when I first discovered it, I was like, wow, this is awesome. It's based on the sidereal zodiac, so, precise astronomical calculations, which make the difference in looking at, many parts. Oftentimes Western looks to sun sign. And so, yeah, that was really cool thing that came into my life. And I also wanted to share, just listening to the program and stuff, I had heard you had sort of a unpleasant encounter with some person explaining some of the traditions of India, or saying that, they have forgiveness too, but was unable to elaborate. And, it's been cool for me listening to this program because Aramaic has all of this power behind the different sounds, and it's very similar, like Sanskrit is very similar like that. The language itself is built around having power in these sounds and these syllables. And so, yeah, I've been studying some Vedic stuff for quite a while, and there's actually a book that I was interested in sending you if you were interested in receiving it, which is called The Yoga of Jesus by Paramahansa Yogananda. And, if you're curious of some of the parallels between Jesus' teaching and some of the teachings of the East.
Sure, I'd love to see it. And, I love India is one of my favorite places on planet Earth. The most wondrous memory I have of being in India and returning. Of course, the poverty there is so deep. It's not unusual to be walking down the street and, it's 8 o'clock in the morning and there are 2 adults, 2 parents, and there's 3 children under the age of 4 who have their little blankets laid out on a concrete sidewalk, and that's where they've slept for the night because that's home. And that kind of poverty. But when you walk up to one of those little ones, or you walk past one of those little ones in the street, they look you right square in the eye and fold their hands and say namaste and greet you with a divine greeting. And the energy of that carries such blessing and such power and abundance. I'll always remember when I got back from India, with all of its affluence, when I arrived back in America, and it was almost impossible to get a person to look you in the eye, let alone recognize the divinity that resides within you and within themselves, and connecting through that. And I remember having a thought, and this was like a kind of a, for me, a visceral type of experience of, oh my God, this is where the poverty is. The poverty isn't in India. This is the poverty, because the poverty of being is the deepest poverty that there is. And so that to me is one of the powerful blessings of India that comes through that ancient culture and that ancient teaching. And the Vedas, and there's a lot of true process there that's just awesome. And it would not surprise me in the least if the 18 years that Yeshua disappeared, that's where he spent some of his time. But I'd love to see that book. Yes, that would be cool. And is there anything in particular? I know that the Jyotish system is slightly different in terms of the way it looks at the calendar and the way the whole structure and system moves. But is there anything in particular in that system that would be relevant for what Jeannie read and for our process today, starting with Good Friday, full moon, moving into an intensive?
To tell you the truth, I am very junior in this system right now, so I'm just learning very fundamentals. And, I felt really inspired by what Jeannie read, and I just feel really inspired by both you and her, and just really appreciate this space that you hold in this. So so it's awesome. So thank you.
Very cool. Well, if you want to drop me an email, I'll drop you back the address where we are. If you want to send me a copy of that book, we're actually going to be here for the next 18 days. So we've got 2 back-to-back intensives. So it'd be cool to have.
Sounds good.
All right, sir. Well, have a blessed one, and we hold the space. And thanks for your call. Tell Mom and your sister we said hello, and your former.
Yes.
Okay, bless. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Wow, talk about the transformation on the planet, that one can go through the closure of a relationship like that, and to be so willing. We really acknowledge you for that, to be so willing to move through the pain and to do your work and open a new space to bring a new level on planet Earth is awesome.
Absolutely. We have another caller.
Cool.
Area code 517. Oh, I hope I clicked it in time. My computer just went black. 517, if I clicked you in time, you're on the air.
Hello.
You got it. Hey there, good sir. How you be?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy holidays, happy Easter, and happy joy to everyone.
You got it.
I wanted to mention, just from my heart, obviously, but just to verbalize that, how I feel very blessed to be a part of Adam and Gail and Leah and Desiree and the entire process of what I've seen this family go through and how they're handling it and how they're growing and learning and just I'm just honestly, Michael, I've seen, I don't know if I've ever seen any families as a whole unit, almost a whole unit, do the type of work and the depth of work that they've been doing. And I feel so blessed to be learning so much, being a part of this experience and my own healing process that's been initiated even more deeply, and it continues on. But mostly just acknowledging them all. I wanted to just make a really verbal acknowledgement and from my heart about how I recognize their growth and the amazing clarity that's coming out of them that I believe we all have and we all truly are, and we're on the same page, right? And so I just wanted to verbalize that. I know Adam's listening, and I'm pretty sure, the rest of the family, I hope, is listening. If they're not, then they'll tune in to another time. But just an acknowledgement across the waves, because they're a beautiful example of what we can all do on an individual level. And when we join together as a group, the potential of change and what we're moving and intentionally bringing our pure love to full expression is exciting for me. So that was really it. I just wanted to share that, and I've been busy this week with different things, and I've missed a couple programs, but I didn't know. I was expecting Aramaic Friday. I'm sure you explained, or that it's changed, or so those.
We just had the month of March.
Just the month of March, so he's not going to be participating.
Just the month of March. We're talking with Dale about a couple of months down the road doing it again, but right now he's just started traveling, so he's all over the country, and of course his website, if anybody wants to tap into it, is www.daleallenhoffman.com, and you can catch his schedule there and order his materials. But he's pretty much moving around, and also Rex, I would like to just turn that acknowledgement around and recognize you for the work that you've done over the last 25, almost 30 years that I've known you. Geez, our kids were babies together, so, Michael J's now 32, and Krista's 30, so it's 3 decades. And so I acknowledge you for the work you've been doing to be able to inspire the family to tap in on that level and to do it and to support them through it. It's a powerful acknowledgement of what you're doing too. So we appreciate having you on our team, and appreciate the opportunity to be on your team and to just see how it all unfolds. There's so many communities that are developing, as you are developing a community of really, truly supporting people with moving through and tapping in and doing their work. It's just awesome.
Well, thank you, Michael. I received that fully, and I have come to understand that my personality plays a role. But truly, I'm participating. I'm showing up, and the more I give the credit where it truly is due, and that is to the pure divine and the love that I truly am, my life reflects that. And so that's really where I would love all that acknowledgement to go, and I receive it as well on the personality level. And I just, it's interesting as you were, giving me that quite often in my world, acknowledging me as an individual. In my past, as you know, that has been a major piece that I would do everything I could to get. And as you were describing it, the words that came into my mind was somewhat biblical, and it isn't really necessarily how I think consciously, but the words that came into mind was, all praise and glory go to God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to verbalize that, and I feel like I'm really starting to get that. And I do understand it as a personality. I play a role, and I'm having a good time, and it's hard at times, and all that stuff. And I acknowledge that, and I appreciate the acknowledgement. But you know what? All praise and glory go to the true essence of who we are, and that's what's creating all of this for me, and that's what gives me any ability to function and perform in any way that I might be able to in what I do in my world.
Very cool.
So thank you.
Well, we join you in that awesome presence and being the instruments, the hands and feet. That presence does not have hands and feet in the world except the ones who choose to be the hands and feet and the mouthpiece for that power. And so thank you for choosing to do that. And
absolutely.
We truly are the hands and feet for the non-physical divine, and that presence of love is what it's all about. The rest of it is all just, I think there was a song maybe sometime in the past that some little, small minor group, I think they were called the Beatles or something, and said, all we need is love.
All we need is love. Yeah, it comes into my mind a lot. I love that song.
But it takes it to a whole new level of practicality when you hear it in the context of this conversation. It's it's like kind of a nice set of words to say, but yeah, right. So what? But when you hear it in this context of what this young man is doing and what his mom is doing and what the family's doing, and it's all just so awesome. And speaking of family, how's Mama doing? What's happening for Mitzi? Are things softening in that arena?
I think that Mitzi is just doing amazing, and I will leave that, for her to share anything on a personal level, but I would say she's doing fantastic and has been continuing her healing process. We're very devoted. She's continuing the forgiveness sheets. We both decided to just continue doing them as an indefinite goal, which I think is kind of cool. It's pretty open, so then the brain doesn't go, oh, gosh, I wish we would hurry up and get done, which is kind of funny. But, yes, I'd say she's doing fantastic. Challenges have increased somewhat in the home in different manners, but we're handling it consciously, and I feel we're all progressing. And she's on her way to Midland right now to spend some time with our daughter and her son-in-law. They have a thing where they do back and forth every couple months. Well, 1 month Brea comes and 1 month Mitzi goes. And so they're very close in friendship. So she's doing that, and I'm sure she's going to have a wonderful weekend. She's going to come back on Easter, and we're going to spend some time together. So I believe she's doing wonderful and incredibly supportive of me and my process, and I believe that we're tapping into a deeper level of what the whole or the holy relationship that the Course in Miracles talks about really is. And that doesn't mean just with a man and a woman. It means in any relationship we're in. So, and I believe she's an example of that. And she reflects it to me, and I reflect it to her. And as I have personally experienced with you and Jeannie, and I love it, and I feel it every time you guys communicate with each other, it's so evident. And I haven't had an opportunity to acknowledge that as well. So I guess it's just having a lot of fun acknowledging everybody.
Mutual Admiration Society. Hey, the definition of a genius, somebody that agrees with me.
So, yes, I believe she's doing well, and, we can talk about, if she chooses to share anything, she's had some pretty incredible breakthroughs. So, again, I honor her as an individual, and we'll let her share. She asked me to make sure that I do that on any of her experiences. So thank you for asking.
Say hi to Brea and Bo for me, too.
I will. She called while I was on the program here listening to Adam, so I'll call her back when we're done, and I'll make sure I mention it.
Okay.
And blessings to everyone.
There's being on the planet, correct?
You bet. And thank you for sharing. I as well. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Michael, we have 3 more callers, and we're down to 7 minutes. So,
okay, let's get a caller. Let's go for it.
Okay, area code 810, you're on the air.
Hey, Michael, Jeannie, it's Adam again.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I with Rex acknowledging, I want to totally acknowledge him because, and your work again, because what he's done for, my family has been just unbelievable. Sticking to these principles and introducing me to the work. And I also wanted to share real quick that, I choose to love truth, and I just want to, I want to be honest on the radio show that, when I shared with you, I heard you had that interaction with the gentleman who was talking about forgiveness in the Indian tradition, and just listening to you and how loving you were with all that. When I first heard that, I created this thing in my mind where I thought that you were not open to that and hadn't seen the value in that, and as a testament to the power of the work through doing worksheets, I let that go. And being loved by you on the phone just recently, it just I've got so much arrogance inside of me. It's incredible, and I'm just so grateful to have this tool to root it out and to clear out these non-being states of mind. And and similarly, when Jeannie read the astrology thing, at first I started thinking, Joe just would say something, and I just was like, man, it's just all this arrogance. It's just incredible that I can't receive with love. So I just want to acknowledge in front of everyone that I'm struggling in this whole process, and it's just like a life raft to stay afloat. And I'm so grateful for you and Jeannie and Rex and just everyone who's offering the support, because I need it. And I'm committed to helping support the work.
We're here to hold this. We're here to hold a space, and about 2 years ago, we almost took a group of folks to India and did a tour there. So maybe at some point we'll do one of those, and you'll do that with us. So we'll hit India together. It's an awesome, awesome place. I spent 2 months there about 15 years ago, and it's one of the highlights of my life.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
All right.
I'm definitely up for that. If that ever comes up, you guys create that. That'd be awesome. So.
Very cool. All right. Thanks, and have a blessed one and an awesome Resurrection Day.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael and Jeannie. I love you guys. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Happy
Appreciate it. Okay, Jeannie, you've got another caller.
970, you're on the air.
Hey, Michael and Jeannie, it's Carrie in Colorado. I'll be really quick. Did the book arrive?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
No.
And secondly, I just wanted to say how much I appreciated Adam's comments, and having gone through a relationship transition last spring instead of calling it an ending at this point. And I really appreciated when you mentioned, instead of calling it an ex, it's a continuing relationship with another human being.
Yeah, it's the form. The form changes, but it's still.
Yeah. So many people said to me, "Oh, well, if not this, something better." And I think we have this we have all these sayings that exist in sort of our kind of not quite loving way of thinking, but I just have really been enjoying and appreciating and the deepening of that knowing of love within myself. And I think that's what really changes our lives. So I just wanted to say, kind of affirm that conversation you were having with Adam, and that how powerful and profound that is when we begin. I love what you say about love is not a verb, it's a noun, or loving, and being in a state of deepening love and letting go of those layers that carry the fear and hostility. And it's just a really profound way of kind of rebirth, really. It's like a kind of rebirth.
Right. Well, we hold the space for that, and, realizing that all the relationships are eternal, and it's whether we choose to stay in that connected space of being or not in those relationships that determines the impact that they have on us. It's not, the impact they have on us is not determined by what that other person says or does or doesn't do. And our relationships are eternal. We're eternal beings. And when we, one of the games of the non-being culture is to objectify ourselves and others, to turn ourselves into objects. And then, of course, we become disposable. That's the Xing part is, this is not a being I'm in relationship with. And we get into our codependence work, we point out that the codependent person is in a relationship with a body, not a being. So they've objectified this being into a body. And, of course, being an object, like, when you throw away the used, juice container, it's X'd out of your life. It's gone. It's finished. It was just an object. And, the truth is that the people in our lives are not objects. They're beings. And we relate from a level of being and have relationships with beings, then this objectification disappears, and a whole lot of insanity going on in our culture.
I love that, and it's really a great deepening dance to recognize that more fully in life.
Very cool.
Adios, have an awesome intensive, and I'll go online and just double check on those books to make sure they're in transit.
All right, we appreciate you. Have a blessed one.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Everybody, this is Resurrection Friday. It is the day to go into and let loose of everything in you that can take you out of the presence of love, and maybe spend a couple of days in the tomb, that is in the place where death resides in you, which means any form of hostility or fear. Let loose of it, come out the other side ready to create the best year yet of your eternal life. You're an eternal being. We hold the space for resurrection and the best year yet of your eternal life. Blessing. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeannie, who present that internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.